In the vast network of global trade, the Panama and Suez Canals are the two most vital conduits for international shipping. However, today, for the first time in history, the world faces simultaneous challenges that risk disrupting these crucial passages. Central America's drought and the Red Sea's geopolitical tensions are testing the resilience of these vital waterways like never before. Hello and welcome to timeBomb. In today's episode, we're discussing the situation at the Panama and Suez Canals. Recent events are causing severe disruptions at both of these vital waterways. How will these events impact our fight against inflation, as well as our country's food and energy security? You're about to find out. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Tell me off in the comments section. This is timeBomb. Let's get started. The situation with the Panama Canal is all related to low water levels at Gatun Lake. Gatun Lake was created in 1913 during construction of the Panama Canal and was, at the time, the largest man-made lake in the world. It's this lake that allows the Panama Canal to function. You see, it's the fresh water from Gatun Lake that is used in the locks that raise and lower ships that pass through the canal. And we're talking about a lot of water. Given the size of the canal, the height the ships are lifted, the large size of the ships, and the sheer number of vessels passing through, it all adds up to a lot of water. Each vessel that moves through the canal requires over 50 million gallons of Gatun Lake's fresh water to maneuver the ship through the locks before that water is spilled into the sea and lost forever. When water levels at Gatun Lake are low, the Panama Canal Authority limits the number of vessels that can transit the canal. They also implement what's called draft restrictions that limit the depth of vessels allowed to pass through, ensuring that they use less water to make the transit. This means the large container ships or oil tankers either need to offload cargo before making the passage or avoid the Panama Canal by going all the way around the southern tip of South America. On a voyage from New York to San Francisco, that trip around South America is 9,300 miles longer than transversing the Panama Canal. Last August, I released a video about how on July 25, 2023, water levels at Gatun Lake had reached their lowest point in its history. I'll put a link to that video at the end of this one if you want to check it out. There's a lot of useful background information in there. Well, unlike most of the major reservoirs in America, which receive a good portion of their water from snowpack, water levels at Gatun Lake are reliant solely on rain. Panama experiences two main seasons, the dry season and the wet. The dry season runs from December to April. We often see the lowest water levels in the lake just after the dry season in June or July. Panama's wet season runs from May to November, and we typically see water levels at Gatun Lake reach their peak in early January. This is a chart of Gatun Lake's water levels for the 10-year period from 2004 to 2013. As you can see, the lake follows a pretty typical pattern of high water levels at the beginning of the year and low water levels after the dry season in June and July. Occasionally, during years of drought, the water level declines are more significant, like in June of 2008 and June of 2010. But once the wet season arrives, the water levels quickly recover. Now let's take a look at a chart of Gatun Lake's water levels for the past 3 years. 2021 was a pretty typical year in regards to water levels, as was 2022. But starting in December of 2022, water levels reached their peak for the year, then started to decline, eventually reaching that record low I mentioned earlier. It was at this point that the number of vessels passing through the canal started to decline substantially. In December of 2021, over 1,320 vessels passed through the canal. But in June of 2023, the number of crossings had fallen to just 958. That's a decline of 27%. When we expand the chart out to today, we see the number of crossings has declined even further. In January, only 676 vessels made the crossing. That's a decline of nearly 50% from the peak. Let's go back to the water level chart. The wet season usually raises water levels in Gatun Lake by 4 feet or so. In 2023, the wet season was so dry that water level increase was just 2 feet. In fact, Gatun Lake just recorded the lowest water level ever for the start of a calendar year. This means we're starting out the dry season with near record low water levels. The situation with Panama is pretty bad, but it's only going to get worse as we head through the dry season in the next couple of months. Here is the administrator of the Panama Canal Authority in a recent video address.
A level that is unprecedented as far as absence of rain and the fact that the Panama Canal operates on fresh water, which is a major disadvantage compared to other water routes.
Now let's shift our focus to the Middle East and the Suez Canal, where the situation is equally dire, but for different reasons. This Egyptian waterway is a vital artery for oil, natural gas, and cargo linking the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. However, its strategic importance makes it a focal point for regional disputes and geopolitical tensions. Now, this is a channel about water management, so I don't want to get into the reasons behind the regional conflicts that are causing this issue, but the fact remains, the Suez Canal transits are down by more than 40% compared to their peak. This is a chart of the number of vessels that transit the Suez Canal by month since October 2021. Transits peaked in May of 2023 with 2,318 crossings. But in January of 2024, the number of transits declined to just 1,338 vessels. That's a decline of 42%. Now I'll show you an animation that shows just how significant the transfer of shipping routes away from the Suez Canal has been. In December, there was virtually no traffic around the southern tip of Africa through the Cape of Good Hope. Then, in late December, traffic surges, taking the long voyage around Africa to avoid tensions in the Red Sea. It's difficult to underestimate the importance of the Suez Canal to global shipping. In 2023, 22% of all seaborne container trade passed through the canal, carrying goods including natural gas, oil, cars, raw materials, and many manufactured products. The Suez is the primary shipping route between Asia and Europe, but delays and increased costs in this area will have an impact globally, including here in America. The impact of the disruptions in shipping through the Panama and Suez Canal is being felt globally. This is a chart showing the average price of shipping via sea of a single container. This giant spike in mid-2000 to the end of 2022 is due to the global health issue. This latest surge in shipping costs is directly related to the issues in the Red Sea and in Panama. A record weekly spike of $500 per container was observed in the last week of December 2023. Never before have shipping costs increased so dramatically. Average container shipping spot rates from Shanghai in early February 2024 more than doubled, up by 122% compared to early December 2023. The rates from Shanghai to Europe more than tripled, jumping by 256%. Shipping prices on routes that do not rely on the Panama or Suez Canals have also increased. The routes linking Asia to the United States West Coast have seen rates increase by 130% since early November. While the combined impact of these disruptions have not yet matched the scale of the global health crisis of 2020 through 2022, the situation does need to be closely monitored. And that is what I intend to do. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I'll continue to keep an eye on the situation and provide you with regular updates. In the meantime, please check out some of my other videos and consider subscribing. I really appreciate your support.